necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Experts show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Enjoy being educated in such topics as personal injury law, community association law, family law, bankruptcy law, along with health show topics like pain management, men's health, and dental implants. Now, sit back and enjoy today's Ask the Experts with host Steve-O.
Hey, welcome to Ask the Experts. We are on 4 stations, 1470 AM. We're on 95.3 FM, 96.9 FM, and 103.9 FM. And today, as we always do, we put out on social media who the experts who are going to be coming on today. And I've got to tell you, we broke a record. We got about 30 emails today from listeners wanting to know how they could watch tonight's show with our employment lawyer. And if you want to go and watch it, you can go to our Facebook, which is Ask the Experts host Steve O, and you can actually watch the show live. We are live. A lot of shows with the virus are taped. This is not a taped show. So if you have a question, you can call in if you'd like to talk to our employment attorney, Richard Seller. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
We're all getting through this. Maybe need a little bit of a haircut, but other than that, we're hanging in there.
So listen, Richard, I cannot believe how many emails we got today wanting to know what time the employment show came on. That's a pretty big subject right now.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, between the amount of millions of Americans that have lost their jobs and are struggling with how to apply for unemployment, to the folks that are working who are being subjected to perhaps unsafe work environments, being forced to work in what I'll call COVID workplaces, to how to deal with overtime. It's just been a crazy time for us as employment lawyers as well.
Well, I read an article about Mark Cuban today, and being from Dallas, I still keep up with the Dallas Mavericks. He actually hired some shoppers to go to restaurants because they opened up the restaurants today, and he said 80% of the restaurants had well above the 25% mark, and that a lot of servers were not using masks or gloves. And I know, man, I hate to be a tattletale. I guess we'll call it a whistleblower, but that's dangerous.
Oh, it's insane. Look, I try to be in the middle in terms of am I overreacting or am I underreacting? But I can't tell you. I went to pick up some food for Mother's Day yesterday. I went to a restaurant we had ordered in advance. I'm double masked. I mean, I'm wearing sunglasses, but there's folks that are standing in line less than 6 feet apart, no masks. And you know what it is? I understand the point about civil liberties and you should choose to wear. You should be able to choose a mask, but we're all trying to get back to work. So I think,
Right.
without upsetting anybody, we all just got to do our part. Yes, it's an inconvenience. I'm a surfer, man. I haven't been to the beach in 2 months. It's a sacrifice for everybody, but folks are dying and losing their jobs. So the sooner we can get everybody back to doing things, properly and really just getting this quarantine over with, man, we're going to be able to go to bars and I'll give you an example. Um, I know that in Naples, a bunch of restaurants opened up. I told my staff today, because I have some folks working in the office, socially distanced in space. But I said, look, here's your choice. If you want to continue to work in the office rather than remotely, you can't go to bars, you can't go to restaurants, you can't go to beaches. If you want to do that stuff because you're just sort of losing it, you can do it. That's your choice. But you can't come into the office and perhaps expose the rest of the staff. You got to work remotely. So
Good for you.
yeah, listen, I don't know that that's such a popular decision. As a boss, you generally don't have the entitlement to tell people what to do in their free time. But if there's bringing potential danger or exposure into the workplace, it's understandable.
I'm hearing some people go, this is all a big hoax. Richard, 80,000 people have lost their lives. Now they're projecting 135,000. And I'm like, why is it going to jump? And they said because we're becoming more mobile, that the numbers are going to jump up.
Yeah, I mean, the deaths from the virus alone are bad, but what you're also seeing, and what I don't think a lot of folks realize, is with unemployment, okay, with losing jobs, with people not being able to work to get out of their houses, a lot more people are going to die as well from depression, suicide, violence. So there's no great answer here for anybody. But in terms of the workplace, I mean, we got to get folks working again so that they can
Right.
provide for their families.
Boy, it's going to be a tough balancing act. So there's a lot of people in Florida are complaining that they can't even get through to unemployment. And this has been almost 2 months now.
It's an unmitigated disaster. One of my colleagues has actually filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida and Governor DeSantis for the failure of the unemployment system to work. It is amazing to me that the Florida state government was not prepared for what was coming. But it's even worse that you've got folks who I will refer to as low hourly wage workers, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, but living paycheck to paycheck, who can't get the very unemployment they need for things we all take for granted. I'm talking about groceries to eat. I'm talking about being able to provide, for electricity or running water, and they can't get in. It's gotten a little bit better over the last week or two, but it's still what I'll refer to as an unmitigated disaster and a disservice to the workers and residents of the state of Florida.
I heard the governor bragging how they've got this down now. They've got new equipment in. They have people working 24/7. But all I hear about is people can't even get through still. And it's been 2 months. And what does it take? 3 weeks to get a check?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I've recommended, and we do a YouTube channel as well where I do video blurbs, and I've been doing them sporadically during the virus. My best tip I can tell folks if they're trying to get unemployment is call or go on at weird times, like 2 in the morning, when traffic is
Ah,
reduced. Now, nobody wants to wake up at 2 in the morning and jump on the computer, but we've found success with our clients going on at odd times to do that.
can the state actually run out of money for this?
I don't think so. No, just like
Okay.
the
But
federal
they have
government
it
came
because
in.
these things- Okay. You know what? Tell everybody, I mean, you're an employment attorney.
Sure.
There's people out there don't understand what you do. And there's a lot of areas that you cover.
Oh, absolutely. So, just a quick about me. I spent the first quarter of my career working for the evil empire. And by that, I mean the biggest corporations in America, representing the companies against employees pursuing claims for all sorts of things: pregnancy discrimination, race discrimination, religious discrimination, disability discrimination. The companies were stealing overtime wages from their employees. And the companies have all the power and the knowledge, okay? But the employees had one hand behind their back, first of all, with the amount of lawyers that were representing them who didn't know what they were doing. And I remember I had an epiphany. We'd gone to trial, we'd won a case on the defense side against this poor lady. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I got to start representing the people. First of all, the lawyers were terrible that were doing it. So I knew I could do it better than them. So for the past
But they
15
had
years,
deep
I've been
pockets, though. But they had deep pockets, though.
They did. And that's the thing. A lot of these companies hope that they're going to get an employee or a lawyer on the other side who can't stay in it for the long game and they'll bleed you out. But what's great about our practice, and we referenced it during the last show, is we're a contingency law firm, which means we only take a case and we only get paid if we win for the client. So the client's not getting bled out. That's removed from the equation that the client's paying a lawyer to fight a Walmart, if you will, because we're taking on the risk with them. So we have our model works for us. There's a lot of law firms that will charge by the hour to represent employees.
Exactly. You're one of the few that doesn't.
We don't do that. We don't believe in it. I'd rather lose money and fight the fight than take money from somebody who just lost their job knowing that they're spending money to take on a losing cause.
So, and I know you also represent whistleblowers. So, if somebody sees something wrong, first thing that occurs is, could I lose my job for this if I squeal? And you represent
It's
people like this.
Yeah, it's actually a really big part of our practice where, the old airport expression after 9/11 was if you see something, say something, right? So we operate from that same model in the workplace. There's so many corrupt employers out there that are defrauding the public. We see auto dealerships adding charges to, car purchases that the customer doesn't know of. We see hospitals where they're charging a patient for drugs they're not administering. We see over the road drivers who have regulations on the number of hours they can work, having their company say, drive longer, don't put it in your logbooks. And these people come forward not just to protect themselves, but others. They're heroes. Okay, so what the law is in Florida is that if an employee comes forward and objects that they have a reasonable belief that what the employer is doing is illegal, and they get fired in retaliation for that, they're a protected whistleblower entitled to damages under the law.
Wow. Well, that's absolutely good to know. So, if someone has, and I want to say this, you cover all of South Florida, actually, probably cover all Florida because usually it's a federal offense.
There's laws, there's federal and state laws, and they kind of work together at the same time. But our firm is statewide. Our main office is in Davie, Florida, but we handle claims throughout the entire state because employment law lends itself to the fact of being able to do a lot of things electronically or doing depositions if you need to by telephone, where you don't have to be in person. And both sides use technology a lot. So they're also doing it over the telephone or by a Zoom call. So there's no disadvantage to it. When it's time to go to trial or mediation or something really important for the case, though, we're there.
So, you enjoy litigating if you have to.
Listen,
Look at the smile.
there's so there's so many employment law firms out there that operate on the
There
basis of,
really
well, we'll
are.
just take the best offer we can get. And what we've learned over the years is that a bully hates one thing, and by a bully I mean the employer. They hate the taste of their own blood. And I don't mean that we're not really going and beating people up, but we mean it, figuratively, just as a disqualifier or qualifier. But what we found in our practice is we tell defense lawyers out of the box, we're going to trial on this case if they don't do the right thing. And now we have that reputation that if you get seller's firm on it, they're going to trial. You may as well pay top dollar now because you're going to spend it anyway.
Well, before we go to break, I want everybody to know this. Sometimes you think you can just handle it yourself. Don't do that. Give Richard a call. This is what he does. I mean, he doesn't have 25 shingles outside his door. He's got one shingle. He does employment law. And don't listen. I can't tell you the amount of people I know who wanted to save some money and do it themselves, and they got blasted
Yep.
because you're going up against some really good attorneys that want to pay you the least amount possible. Richard, give everybody your phone number and your website.
Sure. So our toll free number is 866-344-WAGE, which is 9243. And our website is www.florida, all spelled out, overtimelawyer.com.
Okay, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have more with attorney Richard Seller. We're talking about employment law. We're going to talk about termination and overtime, a lot of areas. If you have a question, you can give us a call here at 888-565-1470. We'll be right back.
For the past 20 years, attorney Richard Seller, the managing partner and founder of Seller Legal, has focused his practice exclusively on labor and employment law. During his career, Richard has covered either by settlement or verdict over $100 million in damages for workers around the United States in cases involving overtime minimum wages, unpaid commissions, breach of contract, race discrimination, sex and pregnancy discrimination, and sexual harassment, and all other employment discrimination types of cases involving employees against employers. If you feel like your employer has violated your rights, contact Richard Seller Legal at 954-903-7475 for a free evaluation of your claims, or visit www.floridaovertimelawyer.com to fill out an evaluation form and receive a free copy of Richard's book, The Employee's Survival Guide to Wrongful Termination in Florida, or watch Richard Seller's legal YouTube channel for video guides on how to navigate a claim for wrongful termination. As always, their review of your situation and initial consultation is free of charge, and if they take your case, they do so on a contingency basis, which means they don't charge you any out-of-pocket money, whether they win or lose.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert show. We're on every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 7 with South Florida's finest attorneys, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts. We are doing our employment law today, and we're here with attorney Richard Seller. Richard, when you have a virus, is there wrongful termination?
Yeah, there certainly can be. We talked about the situation, for example, with the whistleblower. We just were retained by a new client today who works in a hospital setting, and there was an instruction from one of the directors that people don't have to wear masks in the hospital when they're not working on patients. And our client said, guys, this is unsafe and I think it's illegal. And he got fired. So he's a protected whistleblower. So that's a situation we're seeing. But you're also seeing situations occurring in the workplace right now where employers, because they're nervous about pay, are stealing hours from employees. We signed up another case earlier today where an employee is working overtime, but the employer is chopping the hours off their time records and only paying them for 40. They're stealing money from them. So, yeah, there's a lot of things running rampant.
Is there guidelines when you have an illegal termination? How do you decide what the monetary damages are?
So every situation is different, but the general baseline is as follows. What we say to a client, your damages, because everybody always says, what's my case worth? And the clever answer I always give is your case is worth as much as you're willing to pay or a jury awards. But what our baseline generally to our clients is we say, look, out of the box, our demand to an employer is going to be 2 years of wages from the date you were fired, and we project out 2 years because we don't know how long your case is going to take to resolve or if it will resolve. Okay? Now, an employer is not going to roll out after we make a 2-year demand for pay with one of those big golf checks and say, here you go. But our hope is that we can get the client enough money in terms of a settlement or by a verdict that's going to bridge the gap between this illegal firing and their next move in their life. These aren't lottery tickets. These are make-whole tickets.
Are most of your cases one person's word against another's?
So, yeah, and it's a good question.
That must
Oftentimes in
make
the
it
workplace,
tough.
it is. But at the end of the day, the standard of proof is preponderance of the evidence. To win a case, a civil case for an employment law, in an employment law case, we have to show 51% that our case, our version of the facts, is more plausible. In a criminal case, it's beyond reasonable doubt, which is
Right.
this. But what we explain to juries when we do these cases is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you weren't there. I wasn't there. Our client says the light was red. They say the light was green. Who do you believe? And if you believe us 1% more than you believe them, then your verdict must be for our client.
Wouldn't you say the best time to contact you is right away? I mean, I'm kind of surprised, it's all over the news right now that this lady with Biden, I mean, 22 years later, like, why didn't she say something back then? But the best thing to do is to contact you right away.
Well, absolutely, for a couple of reasons. One, the most important reason is there are deadlines to get these cases filed. So if you wait on it, and I saw one today, somebody contacted me that got fired 4 years ago, and they wanted to pursue something, and I said, unfortunately, you had a great case 2.5 years ago. So there are certain deadlines on each of these cases. They're called statutes of limitation. But also, the sooner we get involved, the sooner we can get our client protected and give them guidance in terms of here's what you need to say to unemployment. I need these records. Here's the type of job search I need you to start doing to get your family, to protect your family. So, an interesting point is what we're seeing a lot now during the COVID virus is folks that were fired 6, 7 months ago that didn't pursue anything at that time are now realizing they should have pursued something and are contacting us. We're seeing a lot of November firings and December firings in potential cases rather than what's going on where the whole world's getting laid off right now.
So I want, because we talked about this at the beginning of the show, and we have a lot of people who are tuning in for the first time. The best time to contact unemployment is probably in the middle of the night.
That's correct. So the best time is always going to be at those odd hours.
And there's a live voice there. Can you do it by phone, or is it by? Because I heard they've been crashing their website.
Well, I think a lot of the website crashing has been due to the volume of traffic during the peak working hours. Where our clients have had the most success is logging in at 2 in the morning, setting an alarm, getting up, your eyes barely open, but you get on at that time and there's less people on the website. And our clients have had success that way.
What does a person need to give to the unemployment in order to start getting a paycheck? Do they have
Sure.
to,
So
is it check stubs or?
um, during the pandemic, I think they've really relaxed their standards. During normal times, you normally have to show, a tax form that you worked for the company. You have to show that you were fired for reasons other than misconduct. During these times, essentially, the application process is much more relaxed because they want to get the money into the hands of the
Right.
folks. And if folks have been dishonest, I presume the government will try to claw the money back at some point down the road. But the goal here is to get it to everybody.
Tell everybody, why should I hire your firm?
Sure. What I always tell folks is that the internet is the ultimate equalizer, right? Everybody's got a pretty looking website. Everybody, touts their world's greatest victories. There's so many different things that go into hiring an employment lawyer. And on our website, I have a list, I believe it's 10 or 15 questions that every potential client should ask their employment lawyer before they hire them. And one of the main questions is, how many times have you handled these types of cases? How many times have you gone to a jury trial? What do you assess the value of my case to be? And there's a whole list of questions that I encourage potential clients, whether they're considering us or another firm, to print out and literally run down the checklist to make sure that they're asking the right questions. This is a marriage. This is how I always describe it. When you hire a lawyer to fight for your rights, you don't want to just hire somebody off of a fancy website or a Google review. And we've got great Google reviews, but I tell people, look, talk to the lawyer, ask them what their assessment is of your case.
And I'm sure customer service is extremely important to you.
So the analogy we always give is that when your house is leaking and you need a plumber, you don't want to wait 3 days for the plumber to call you back. And you'd be amazed how many potential clients call us and say, hey, I called the other guys. I still haven't heard back. It drives me nuts. These are immediate situations where families have lost their source of revenue. They've been illegally fired. You need to jump on that and you need to attend to somebody's needs, whether you take the case or not. It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
This is like one of the most important shows we do, and I'm telling you, next month isn't going to be different at all. I'm so glad you're part of the show. It's Attorney Richard Seller. Give everybody your phone number again.
Sure. Our toll free is 866-344-9243, which is wage, if you want to use the clever
Great
four
phone
last
number.
letters. And our website is www.floridaovertimelawyer.com.
Well, I only had about 2,000 more questions, but you broke our record for the most emails, which I kind of figured would happen. You're the best. Richard Seller, attorney Richard Seller. He'll be back with us again next month. Richard, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Everybody stay safe out there.
We're going to go to break. We've got Marlon Weiner.